Welcome. Today we'll be discussing data intelligence and how it's the foundation for data activation in modern enterprises. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you a little bit about me. In the summertime, I like to spend a lot of time on the water, fishing off the deck of my boat. Now, I mostly do it for fun, in part because it's not the time or the investment to make into doing it at any level higher than maybe a club tournament in terms of competing. But if you talk to any serious angler, you'll learn that it's not simply about baiting a line and casting it in and waiting for the fish to bite. Fish are highly distributed. They're diverse. There's a lot of different kinds of fish out there. And fishing conditions are very dynamic. Fishing tournament competitors often talk about patterns, and the pattern is a combination of bait and presentation that results in catching fish in the species that you're targeting. Figuring out where to start requires intelligence. The weather conditions, the wind, the precipitation, the barometric pressure. Then you need to assess the water conditions, the temperature, the depth, the clarity, underwater structure. Putting all these together with knowledge of your past success, you then pick the location, the bait, and the presentation. Then you let the fish tell you what they want. Anglers need to continuously evaluate what is and what is not working to establish and change their patterns to be successful. I'm Stuart Bond. I'm Research Vice President at IDC, focused on data intelligence and data integration software. I've been in the industry for over 30 years, and I've seen a lot of changes, including the growing complexity of IT environments. Now, I've had the pleasure of talking about data intelligence. We're talking about data intelligence today. I've been talking about data intelligence since 2018. Now, I credit ASG Technologies with coming up with the term, but through the work that I've done with many software vendors, we've defined a new software market. Now, even though we've defined this market, there's still some confusion over what data intelligence is. Simply put, it's intelligence about the data. Data workers need intelligence about data to be successful, just as anglers need intelligence about their field of play to be successful in their competitions. So today we'll be spending some time looking at the complexities of modern data environments and how high levels of data intelligence are delivering better business outcomes. And most importantly, how you can improve your levels of intelligence about data in your organization. We'll hear the voice of your peers, where and how investments are being made in data intelligence, and what kind of return they're getting, what kind of return on their investment they're getting in that they're seeing based on survey data that we've done. And then I'll give you some key takeaway points. Now, we're talking about data activation today, data intelligence being the foundation of data activation. What is data activation? Simply put, it's nothing magical. It's about providing access to trusted data for workers and machines to enable data-driven decisions. And I will add that within appropriate controls that are relative to the velocity in which decisions are being made. Perhaps to simplify it even more, it's about getting to the data that's required and use it productively. Why is this important? Well, according to a worldwide IDC survey of IT decision makers in August of 2022, using data and intelligence strategically is the most important lever that they can pull on to run a digital business in 2023. But in the same survey, we also learned that building a data-driven business and culture is also the most cited challenge in running a digital business. Why is that? I spoke to a manufacturing company not long ago that exclaimed, "We don't have a data lake problem. We have a data puddle problem." Here's some stats that illustrate the data puddle problem and the organizational struggle to activate data. 82% have not been able to remove data silos or puddles. This is because modern data environments are characterized as being highly distributed, diverse, and dynamic. And nearly a third of organizations also cited that data technology debt was a complexity they were dealing with in trying to get the desired outcomes in their business and also in their data management activity. The fact that all of these data points came from 4 different surveys validates these are common challenges faced by every organization. Perhaps you can relate. As organizations, perhaps even as your organization faces data complexity, you also face regulatory constraints, and many organizations are favoring a defensive stance towards managing data over an offensive stance. This favoring of defense over offense is reflected in predictions that IDC has made, informed by survey work that shows this constant battle between wanting to innovate with data and be on the offense, but being held back by the need to be defensive in the protection of data assets. First, a defensive prediction. We're seeing the rise of data marketplaces, both internal and external, in addition to the continued emergence of data regulations and sovereignty concerns. The point here, intelligence about data will be critical in informing data risk management committees on where they need to focus time and resources to reduce risk. And an offensive prediction. Only 10% of organizations from the same population 2 years later will have data to action feedback loops enabling superior return. Now, there's many other ways that you can have data offense, not just through data to action feedback loops, but the intelligence about data will be critical here to make sure you're taking the right action based on the data that's being analyzed in those feedback loops. How can organizations wanting to compete in a digital-first world as a digital business leverage data and intelligence strategically and find that balance between offense and defense? At IDC, we believe that organizations can do this by taking control of data, taking control of that highly distributed, diverse, and dynamic data with something we call a data control plane. There are 3 primary domains dependent on each other. If we consider defense and offense, the governance domain is primarily about defense, but it's also about offense in that it supports data enablement, getting the right data to the right resource at the right time and make sure it's being used for the right reason. The engineering domain is more offense than it is defense, in that this is where data is moved and transformed in pipelines to deliver data products that are used to improve business outcomes. There's also some defense as data matching and cleansing activities correct data quality problems. But let's focus on the most important part, data intelligence. So pretend nothing else is here. Data intelligence is the foundation of data activation. It's also the foundation of both defense and offense. Like I said, just as anglers need intelligence to know where to start looking for fish and how to catch them, data intelligence informed where the data is, how it's flowing through the organization, who owns it, who's using it, and how they're using it. What's the security and privacy classification, which informs policy on how to best protect data assets. Now, data intelligence combined with knowledge contributes to the success an organization has in transforming into a data-driven business and culture, and find that balance between defense and offense for better business outcomes. But we've also seen that many organizations are focused on that outcome, and they think the first move they need to make is collect all the data together into a warehouse, a lake, or a lakehouse, with a lot of that activity happening in the cloud. Cloud storage is cheap, but compute is expensive. Spending money on compute to discover data after it's moved into an analytical repository could become costly, and maybe it's not the optimal use of resources. So I counter this move with a recommendation that the first move an organization should take is to harvest the intelligence about their data. And then they can decide if, where, when, and how to move it based on the business analytics use case that they're working on, optimizing both storage and compute costs. I've actually had some recent conversations with organizations about FinOps perhaps being the next big driver of adoption of data intelligence technologies. The result here, data intelligence is the foundation to data activation, certainly within the context of a data control plane. Even if you're not using a formal data control plane, you still need that intelligence about that data to use it. Let's take a look at some survey data now. These outcomes of data activation illustrate how data intelligence can be leveraged for offense and defense. Data intelligence tells us how clean or dirty the data is to improve the quality of decisions. It tells us what data needs to be protected, who is accountable for data to improve access, and where the most recent data is to improve the timeliness of insights. It's not just the outcomes that validate the need for data intelligence, it's also what we've heard from the market. In 2022, I did a MarketScape on data catalogs, and here's a summary of the drivers that I heard in 24 interviews with reference customers across multiple industries, including financial services, insurance, consumer goods, higher education, stock exchanges, and healthcare. I'm not going to read through each of these because they echo what we just looked at: quality, control, trust, and accountability. And here's a summary of the outcomes or the successes that these organizations achieved as a result of implementing data catalogs to improve their intelligence about data. These successes validate the importance of data intelligence and data activation. But if data intelligence is the first move organizations should make, is it being reflected in 2023 priorities? We continue to see the need to balance defense and offense as we look at what organizations place as their priorities in 2023. Initiatives to improve data governance and privacy, data engineering and data cataloging and metadata, they all top the list. What is also interesting is that less than 1% do not have any of these initiatives as a priority, which validates what we saw at the beginning of our talk today, in which organizations said their top lever in running a digital business is data and intelligence. Now, I'm also glad to see that the top three, which are colored purple here, validate the three domains of the data control plane. So, what vendors exist in the market to deliver data control plane capabilities? This is the market glance that I did earlier this year on all of the different vendors that have capabilities across the domains of the data control plane. Many vendors have a few capabilities, but few vendors have many or all of the capabilities of a data control plane. And this is one of the contributing factors in technical debt in data integration and intelligence software environments. Now, will the market consolidate? Yes. We've seen some M&A activity happening over the past few years. Vendors are starting to build a complete portfolio of offerings across all the domains of the data control plane and beyond. We think about some of the more recent M&A activity. Now, we've also seen independent software vendors going to market with partners to complete this picture, to have a more complete picture of what they can offer to the market. But as we look across this broad and diverse market, we also need to ask, what are customers buying? And perhaps you can see yourselves in this data. A majority of organizations are procuring specialized point solutions developed and sold by a single vendor. The second highest proportion is buying point solutions from multiple vendors, and the least amount are buying platform or suites of data management software. Now, this is probably because few integrated platforms or suites actually exist, what we just talked about. In other words, if you want to use one platform, they're hard to find. There are more examples of vendors with portfolios of point solutions than those with an integrated platform. Even though those portfolios exist, each of those capabilities may not work well together. You may still need to do some integration work. But you might be able to find a point solution that is part of a platform, and you can start there, then expand into other capabilities provided by the platform as you need them. If you're looking for point solutions, look for ones that have partnerships. and pre-built integrations with the broader ecosystem so that you don't need to do all the integration work yourself. I also get a lot of questions about open source versus commercial. Are they deploying open source or are they buying commercial? So we asked organizations what type of software they prefer to deploy in production, and commercial still reigns supreme. The fact that only 4% is willing to deploy community-based open source in production really points to the importance of commercial solutions and support of those solutions, even support of open source solutions. Now, the other question I often get from both vendors and end users is, where is the money coming from in the organization? Who is buying data management technologies? First, we get asked about, well, are budgets centralized or decentralized? Not sure where you are in your organization, but this is what we heard in the survey that we recently did. There's still about a half and half split with a slight preference towards centralized. There will be an increased focus on centralized and deduplicating spend to optimize technology budgets as we face times of uncertainty. Look for solutions that can help you consolidate software, and not unlike how we went through data center consolidation a few years ago, I think we're going to see some software capability consolidation in the coming years. Now, is the money coming from the business or is it coming from IT? According to our survey, the majority is still coming from IT, but nearly a third is now coming from the business. Your individual situation might be different. The lesson to be learned here is that better feeds and speeds isn't the only thing you should be evaluating solutions on. Tying the value of data intelligence and integration solutions to business outcomes is what every chief data and analytics officer needs to do. Look for solutions that can help you make that connection and prove the value of managing that data that you have under your control. Now that you know what is in the market, organizational buying preferences, and where the money comes from as organizations are investing in data management technologies, what is that return on investment? In the survey that we recently fielded on the topic of data management, we were able to score each respondent on a scale based on how much they had operationalized data management functions and how far along the path they were to becoming a digital business. High scores on this scorecard on the scale were positively correlated with improvements in financial and operational business metrics and data management outcomes. When we look at financial improvements, those at the top of the scorecard experienced an 8.4% improvement in their financial metrics. Above that average, share of market and profit margin. But how data is activated is reporting. Those with low levels of data intelligence experienced much lower levels of improvement. We can flip this around and put it another way. Those with high levels of data intelligence experienced an 87% increase in improvements over those with low levels of data intelligence. Maybe more simply put, there's an 87% difference between those two. In operational metrics, those at the top of the scorecard experienced a 10.7% improvement in operational metrics. Above the average, customer retention and satisfaction, innovation, regulatory compliance, employee retention, and operational risk improvements. Again, those with a low level of data intelligence experienced much lower levels of improvement. There's a 55% difference between those with a high level of data intelligence and those with a low level of data intelligence. And lastly, more than a third of organizations at the top of the scorecard reported significant data management improvements. So some of those at the top of the list include data security, data governance, and data worker productivity. And significantly fewer organizations with a low level of data intelligence reported data management improvements. That's a 338% difference between the top and the bottom. That is significant. The net of this, it validates the premise of this entire presentation. Data intelligence is the foundation for data activation because we see the difference between those with it and those without it. As we close, I'd like to give you a few things to take away with you. Modern data is highly distributed, diverse, and dynamic. Consider the breadth of capabilities in your data integration and intelligence install base, the technology that you already have that help you take control of that data in those modern environments, regardless of where that data is, what type it is, how fast it is, or how dynamic it is, how often and how quickly it changes. As you know, data technologies are also in 3D, resulting in a lot of technical debt in the data management environments. Look for opportunities to consolidate and eliminate technical debt. Look for solutions in your current installer base and in the market that are flexible enough to operate across multiple areas in the modern data environment and help you consolidate your software spend. Data intelligence is foundational, as we've seen, but its importance is underrated. Budget increases in 2023 have data cataloging and metadata at the bottom of the list. Perhaps your budgets are the same. As you have conversations with your business customers, your business partners, ask about how they're using and governing data. Ask if they truly understand where their data is, what it looks like, who's using it, how clean or dirty it is, in order that they can trust the outcome that they're getting from that data. Evaluate your current portfolio of software for data intelligence capabilities and look to the market if you need to close any of those gaps. And as I said earlier, better feeds and speeds aren't the only criteria to focus on in selection and procurement. Understanding how solutions can connect data to business outcomes can improve the trust and value for the CIO and the CDAO, the IT, and the data organizations. So now we're going to move into a time of question and answer where we can have further discussion about what I talked about today. You can also find me on the social media channels and reach out and take a look at my service and research on IDC.com to see all of the different things that I publish and talk about.